Today we're going to talk about something that, well, it supports billions of people, but it stays almost completely invisible. We're talking about the informal economy.
This is a massive part of our global system.
Right. And this is not just about, a few market stalls here and there. This is a huge economic engine that's often just left out of the big conversations about business and development.
And deliberately sometimes.
We've been looking at some great material from Anita L. Hummel. And our mission today is to really define this hidden workforce, look at its incredible scale, and try to understand why ignoring it is, frankly, so dangerous for global policy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this crucial global foundation.
It's so important because when you picture the economy, you probably see, stock tickers, corporate logos?
Right, Wall Street.
Exactly. But the reality for the huge majority of the world's working population is completely different. It's a landscape defined by resilience, by ingenuity, and, by having zero safety nets.
So before we get into the numbers, we really have to get the definition right. When we say informal economy, what are we actually talking about?
We're talking about all the economic activities, enterprises, jobs, you name it, that are not covered by any kind of formal arrangement. They basically operate outside the usual systems of regulation, tax.
And protection. That's the key part.
That is the absolute key. No legal or labor protections.
And I think it's really important to say this up front. This is not about illegal activity, is it?
No, absolutely not. The sources are so clear on this. Most of these activities are perfectly lawful, selling food, repairing things, making textiles. The informality is just about being outside the formal government processes, registration, licenses, that sort of thing.
That does raise a really interesting question for me, though. If it's all legal, why are these workers kind of pushed to the edges? Is it a government failure to regulate properly? Or is it more of a rational choice by people to just avoid all the red tape?
It's often both, and that's what makes it so complex. For so many people, trying to become formal is it's too difficult, it costs too much, it takes too much time.
The paperwork alone must be a nightmare.
Oh, for sure. So informality, it's a survival strategy, but it's also, a business decision.
Can you give us a few concrete examples? Who are we talking about here?
Well, think about a city's daily life. The street vendors selling fruit and vegetables, the people working from home, maybe packaging goods for a bigger company.
Domestic workers, too.
Domestic workers, definitely.
Yep.
Small-scale drivers and the organized groups of waste pickers who are, frankly, keeping cities from drowning in trash.
Now, the material you mentioned makes a really important distinction, something between the informal sector and informal employment.
Yes. And this is vital for anyone in policy to understand.
Okay, so what's the difference?
The informal sector is about the business itself, the economic unit. So it's the little roadside food stall that doesn't have a business license or the tailoring shop that isn't formally registered. The enterprise is informal.
Got it. That's the business. So what's informal employment?
Informal employment is about the job, the relationship. It's any paid work that doesn't come with a formal contract, Social Security, health benefits, any of that. And here's the part that really surprises people.
Okay.
Informal employment can happen inside the formal sector.
Wait. How does that work? You can be informally employed by some huge registered corporation. That seems like a contradiction.
It is, but it's the reality for millions. Think of a giant registered factory. They might hire a bunch of workers on short-term verbal agreements, no retirement plan, no health insurance, no written contract.
So that worker is informally employed.
That worker is informally employed, even though the company they work for is a completely formal registered entity. And that distinction is it's vital. It shows that this lack of protection isn't just about small, unregistered businesses. It's a systemic part of the global labor market.
Wow. Okay, so let's get to the scale of this, because I have a feeling the numbers are going to be pretty shocking.
They really are. The International Labor Organization, the ILO, they estimate that more than 60% of the world's entire employed population works informally.
60. 60. That's it. I mean, when we talk about the quote-unquote global workforce,
yes,
we're actually talking about a majority of people who are completely unsupported structurally.
Yes.
Doesn't that mean our basic economic metrics, like GDP, are just fundamentally flawed? They're missing most of the people who are actually working.
That is the core takeaway. It creates these enormous blind spots for huge institutions like the IMF or the World Bank. When they talk about economic growth or unemployment, they're often only tracking the formal minority.
And I'm guessing that 60% figure isn't spread out evenly.
Not at all. In low-income countries, that number just skyrockets. It's closer to 9 out of 10 workers.
9 out of 10.
Yeah. This isn't some small exception. It's the normal, dominant way people work in most of the world.
The sources also point out some pretty specific demographics here.
They do. There's a really strong gender dimension. 55% of all working women in the world are in informal employment, and almost half, 47% of all informal workers are self-employed. They don't have any employees.
So they're basically micro-entrepreneurs.
That's a great way to put it. They're the world's independent micro-entrepreneurs.
So even though this work isn't tracked by the formal systems, its contribution has to be just immense.
It's completely essential. They provide food security. Think about the entire supply chain for urban street food. It feeds millions of people every single day. They're also doing critical small-scale manufacturing, making clothes, household goods, often right out of their own homes.
And the service economy must be huge.
Oh, absolutely. Essential services like childcare, domestic work, taking care of the elderly. That's so often in this category. And it's what allows the formal workforce to even go to work.
Right. The formal economy would grind to a halt without it.
Totally.
And we said they operate outside the formal tax system, but they are contributing financially, right? It's not like the money just disappears.
Not at all. Their contribution is just harder to see. They pay indirect taxes all the time on everything they buy.
Sales tax, VAT.
Exactly. Even without paying income tax, they're consumers. And their money circulates incredibly fast in local markets, which supports other businesses, other services. I mean, the money generated by 60% of the world's workers is a massive economic input, however you measure it.
Okay, so we've set the stage. It's enormous, it's essential. But let's dig into the bigger picture here. Why does the survival of this sector matter so much for global stability? Here's where it gets particularly insightful.
It matters because for billions of people, the informal economy isn't a choice. It is the only safety net they have. In places with weak governments, high unemployment, or just deep inequality, this sector is the only thing standing between people and extreme poverty.
It's a buffer, a huge economic shock absorber.
That is the perfect way to describe it. We saw this so clearly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Formal businesses shut down, millions lost their jobs overnight, and what did they do? They pivoted immediately to informal work, selling things online, delivering food, any kind of cash-based gig they could find. The informal economy kept so many families afloat when official systems were just too slow or didn't exist.
And you mentioned earlier that over half of these workers are women. So what are the implications there for gender equity?
Well, it's a lifeline. For women who face all kinds of barriers to getting a formal job, maybe it's discrimination, maybe lack of education, maybe just the massive burden of caregiving, it provides income and some autonomy.
But I'm guessing there's a flip side to that coin.
Oh, a huge one. That benefit comes with incredible vulnerability because the work is unstructured, it's undervalued, it leaves women so exposed to exploitation, harassment, and just the sheer instability of having no retirement savings or health security.
So the goal should be to formalize the protections, not necessarily the job itself. I was really struck by the description of this sector as a hotbed of innovation and entrepreneurship. That's not the image most people have.
Right, but think about it. These workers are like micro CEOs. They have to manage their own inventory, their supply chain, customer service, everything. And they do it with almost no resources, no capital, no formal credit.
And they're constantly dealing with things like bad weather or sudden crackdowns.
All the time. Their ability to innovate, to find what their community needs and provide it affordably is just unmatched.
And we have to talk about the environmental side of this, which I think will surprise a lot of people.
It's the role of waste pickers. In so many cities, they are the main, sometimes the only, recycling system. They collect, sort, and sell materials that the official city services would just dump in a landfill.
Yeah, so they're running this massive, decentralized conservation program.
A highly effective one, and they do it at great personal risk with absolutely no public credit for it.
And finally, there's the cultural aspect.
Yes. The informal economy is where so much culture is kept alive. Traditional crafts, local food, the social bonds that form in a neighborhood market. It's so much more than just an economic category. It's social and cultural infrastructure.
Okay, so we have this paradox, right? This sector is essential, it's resilient, it's huge, but the workers themselves are facing these incredible systemic problems. What are the biggest roadblocks?
The biggest one is the lack of legal recognition. That's the root of the vulnerability. It leaves them open to unsafe conditions, to exploitation, to being harassed or evicted by authorities at any moment. They just have no legal ground to stand on.
And that must tie directly into their inability to grow their businesses. No access to finance.
Absolutely. They can't get credit or insurance or any kind of investment capital. A formal bank looks at an unregistered business and just sees risk. So they're forced into these really exploitative informal loans with crazy interest rates.
And then there are the social issues, the stigma.
The social exclusion is profound. Their work is undervalued, they're looked down on, and they're almost never included in the decision-making that affects their own lives. Policy is made about them, not with them.
Which often leads to policies designed to just get rid of the informal economy instead of supporting it.
Which is a huge mistake.
So if the answer isn't elimination, but integration and protection, what are the actual steps we can take?
Well, the first thing is to simplify the legal side of things. Governments need to create registration processes that are actually accessible, affordable, maybe digital, something that makes compliance easier. And then you need to enforce basic labor rights like safety, even in these non-traditional work environments.
Okay, but how do you get money to people who don't have collateral or a formal bank account?
Financial institutions have to get creative. They need to design products that actually fit these workers' lives. We're talking microloans with repayment schedules that match daily or weekly cash flow, not a monthly salary.
Using mobile tech could be huge there.
Mobile tech is the key. You can create savings and insurance products that don't need a mountain of paperwork. And beyond that, policymakers have to stop seeing the informal economy as a problem to be solved and start seeing it as a development asset.
Which means actually talking to them.
Yes, consult them. Ask a street vendor association what they need before you pass a new regulation about street vending. It sounds so simple, but it rarely happens.
And lastly, the big one, the safety nets.
We have to expand them, find new ways for informal workers to get access to health insurance, unemployment support, retirement savings. It has to be flexible. They need to be able to contribute small amounts when they can. It's about building a system that matches the reality of their lives, not forcing them into a rigid model that was never designed for them.
This whole deep dive really flips the script. It shows that the informal economy isn't some glitch in the system. It's a foundation of global livelihoods, and it urgently needs support and protection.
So what does this all mean?
I think it means that by recognizing its real scope and using these smart, targeted strategies to fix the problems, we can move towards a much more inclusive and, frankly, more equitable global system.
That's the critical takeaway. We have to validate and value this work. If the majority of the people working in the world are structurally unsupported, what does that say about our basic assumptions about value, about labor, about progress?
It's a fundamental question.
And it raises a question for you, the listener. Really think about how much of our global system depends on labor that operates every single day without any basic security. What assumptions do we all need to change to truly value the immense contribution of this incredibly resilient workforce?
That is definitely something to mull over. If this discussion about global resilience, economic structures, and, the real lives of global citizens resonated with you, we really encourage you to check out the source of today's deep dive, the blog, A Bus on a Dusty Road.
Yeah, they take a much deeper look into travel, expat living, and these big social and economic issues that really shape our world.
And you can keep exploring these kinds of topics by subscribing to the Dusty Roads podcast and also to their YouTube channel. Both have fantastic information and insights into the global systems we've been talking about today.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.